Let's kill them all.
Some had even wet themselves beyond just dropping their weapons. With these people in front of him, Rem spoke while holding a blood-stained axe.
Please spare us.
It was only natural for them to be terrified. They were already demoralized. Rem thought they should be killed. He was a settler from the West, often derogatorily called a barbarian. Rem spent his childhood in the West. In the land of pioneers, leaving any threat behind was not an option.
It seems they sent an assassin. What's the point in arguing about who the culprit is here? Let's slit their throats and be done with it. That's the clean way, isn't it?
The terrified men couldn't even open their mouths. Rem stood between Enkrid and the kneeling criminals, looking ready to swing his axe at any moment. They remained silent.
Where did you throw your blanket?
Rem was about to say that if Enkrid didn't want to do it, he would handle it himself. Then an unexpected question came.
What?
Your blanket.
When they left the lodgings, he had been wrapped in a blanket, but at some point he had thrown it all away.
Near the alley entrance.
Before he saw the beggar, his unique instincts, the beast's sense of smell, had prepared him for battle.
Then, where will you sleep tonight?
He didn't understand why Enkrid kept asking these things, but Rem had a plan from the moment he discarded the blanket.
Don't worry. I'll use the blanket of the guy who sleeps out every night. I won't steal the squad leader's blanket.
Touch my stuff and you die. No, I'll kill you.
Jax understood and reacted. The guy who often slept out was Jackson. Jackson met many women. Whenever they came into town, he often left the lodgings at night.
You stingy bastard, you don't even use it. Don't touch it, barbarian. Damn sneaky stray cat, you're so narrow-minded.
As the two started bickering, Enkrid clapped his hands.
That's not necessary, Rem.
From the beginning, when he targeted the Thieves' Guild, Enkrid had a plan. It was a bit more plausible than Rem's clumsy plan to steal a blanket. Half of it was because he suspected these guys had sent the assassin. The other half was for a different plan.
This is unexpected.
He was more than half convinced that these weren't the ones behind the assassination. Didn't they already know Aspen had sent the assassin? So, if anyone had bet on Krona, it wouldn't have been the guild. They might have wagered a few pennies they could afford to lose. Whether these guys were behind it or not didn't matter. He had a more important plan.
It's pretty cold. Don't you want to stay warm?
Rem tilted his head in confusion, wondering what Enkrid was talking about.
Huh?
Only Kreis, with his keen intuition and quick thinking, understood. He blinked his large eyes and looked at his squad leader with disbelief. Enkrid nodded slightly. It had been years of training with mercenaries under the Valen mercenary sword technique, but he had learned many other things besides swordsmanship. For example,
it's fair to rob a thief who tries to rob you.
That sort of thing. Enkrid had made up his mind. He didn't think this would affect his dreams. After all, they were just a gang of criminals. The wealth they had accumulated was not earned through virtuous means. There might be future repercussions or other issues, but he didn't care.
It doesn't matter.
As his skills improved, his confidence in handling other matters naturally grew. He believed he could solve anything that came his way. Breathing out, Enkrid continued.
Let's rob them, even if it's not a magical heater. Let's get a few warm monster skins in our lodgings.
Silence fell again. It was an unexpected turn of events. Soon Rem burst into laughter.
Right, what comes from the land I've secured is mine.
That was a typical Rem expression.
Warmly?
Ragna also responded. Nobody likes being cold.
Haha, the gods said. Steal from thieves and use it for good.
He said. Would such words actually be written in scripture? Or would the temple teach such things? Neither seems likely, however. Auden conveyed the righteousness of the situation by firmly believing in what he said.
Not bad.
Jackson also nodded.
Are we just going to rob them?
Kreis voiced an advanced opinion.
Let's go inside and talk. It's cold.
The temperature was cold enough to quickly chill the warmth from the entrails and blood of the dead. They immediately entered the mansion. Kreis urged those hesitating and watching to go inside, and the remaining ones followed. Since some had broken legs,
Help carry everyone inside!
at Kreis' words, those who had been watching each other's faces in hesitation started to move. Wouldn't it be better to just run away? Their faces clearly showed their indecision.
We will chase you. Either the guy with the axe or the guy who enjoys breaking legs.
Ragna and Jackson fought well, But to the gang, the most terrifying were Rem with his axe and Auden who swung his club to break legs. They were the embodiment of fear.
Do you think you can escape the eyes of the border guard's standing army? Or are you planning to explore the end of the season where the monsters roam at night? You'll either freeze to death or become monster food. We won't kill you, so come inside.
Kreis was a master of persuasion. Enkrid, entering inside while listening to Kreis, complimented him.
You would have made a good con artist.
Is that a compliment?
Yes.
It doesn't seem like one.
Once inside, there was a fire burning in the fireplace. It seemed like the dead man had lived here, as the warmth of people could be felt all around. Above the fireplace, 2 blunt practice swords and a shield were crossed and hung, and a few paintings were hung on both walls.
Are they expensive?
Enkrid glanced at the paintings and asked. Kreis replied as if it wasn't worth a closer look.
No, they are cheap. I wonder who would buy such things.
Even to Enkrid, who lacked any artistic sensibility, it was clear.
I could draw better with my foot.
Rem seemed to agree. They all stood by the fireplace, creating long shadows behind them.
Light the torch. It's dark.
Enkrid said while warming himself by the fire. He didn't direct his words to anyone in particular, and no one moved. Enkrid added,
Since Gilpin is dead, the next guy should do it.
Gilpin isn't dead.
Then one of the unharmed men stepped forward. He was the one with a bald head resembling a sand dune. If seen during the day, it would have been blinding. He had a long scar above his eyebrows, but the combination of the scar and the bald head did nothing to make his appearance intimidating. With drooping eyes and thick lips, he didn't look threatening at all. But what did he say?
Gilpin isn't dead.
Did he have some kind of monstrous regenerative ability? So he survived even after being beheaded? The guy lying dead in the open space in front of the mansion? There was no sign of such a thing. The bald guy spoke.
Because I am Gilpin.
What kind of situation is this?
So he's not the leader? It's like cutting off a lizard's tail?
Kreis pointed outside, asking and answering his own question. Enkrid remembered some of the casual conversations he had heard in the mercenary industry.
Sometimes the scum in the criminal guilds do this. They name the gang after one of their subordinates.
Why?
So they can sacrifice the subordinate and escape if things go south. It's a cheap trick they use when the army suddenly shows up to wipe out the criminals.
Why do you know so much about this?
I was briefly involved in that scene. Anyway, it's not common, but the ones who do this are real bastards.
Enkrid had never actually seen someone do this. Usually, out of pride, people named their gangs after themselves. Using a subordinate's name meant that the guy who died outside was a particularly sneaky bastard.
A real bastard.
Understanding, Enkrid spoke. From behind, Ragna asked what was going on. The quick-witted Kreis roughly explained the situation. Enkrid's plan was plausible but simple. Hit the Thieves' Guild, and if they cooperated, take their offering and leave. If they resisted, beat them until they offered something and then leave. Of course, there would be repercussions for messing with the Thieves' Guild, but he was confident he could suppress that with force. He believed he and his squad members were sufficient. However, there was a real connection to the assassin who targeted him. So what?
What does that matter?
Will it really be warm?
Rem whispered from behind. He was so close that it was uncomfortable.
Get lost.
Enkrid whispered back and looked at Gilpin. Gilpin, rubbing his sand dune head with his hand, spoke hesitantly.
If you're going to kill, just kill me and spare the others. Some of them have sick mothers they are struggling to care for.
Just because you're struggling doesn't make it right to rob others.
Caring for a sick mother doesn't justify threatening others and taking their money.
Well, I'd appreciate it if you just spared us.
Enkrid folded his arms and stood straight, looking at Gilpin. This guy had some guts. His request to be the only one killed was quite impressive. So why didn't he fight back earlier? When asked,
Why would I fight for a bastard who'd sell me out to save his own skin?
the 2 who had been the nameless guild leader's guards nodded behind him. They were barely alive, too. From the way things were going, it was clear what the dead man had done. All his subordinates seemed to hate him.
Will you cough up what you've saved? Then you can leave peacefully.
Enkrid proceeded according to plan.
Sure, if they cough it up, there's no need to kill them.
Rem agreed, knowing the value of staying warm far outweighed any pioneer ideology. Would the others be any different?
Yes, but the safe key was hidden by that dead bastard.
Oh, that's fine.
We have a wizard here who can unlock doors with just a knock. A safe box, piece of cake. Gilpin was wise. When he realized no one would be killed, he handed over all the wealth they had accumulated.
Oh, it's heated leather!
If you take all of that, the people guarding the path will die.
He was referring to the beggars guarding the alley, the same beggars they had already killed on the way in. Kreis spoke up when he heard that the beggars had lined their shabby clothes with monster leather.
This stuff is useless if it's stained with blood.
They couldn't take the beggars' belongings after all. Once again, Enkrid looked at Gilpin with newfound respect.
He took care of even the lowliest subordinates.
From the way things were unfolding, it seemed that Gilpin, despite only borrowing the guild leader's name, was more generous than the original guild leader. Everyone seemed to follow Gilpin's lead, even the two guards who looked like they could handle a sword.
Leave some.
Enkrid appropriately restrained them. Fortunately, no one was particularly greedy. Well, except for one. Kreis was usually the greediest of the squad members, but for some reason, he only checked the items without taking anything.
Aren't you going to take anything? No, actually, squad leader, I have something to discuss.
Enkrid also had something to discuss. They had already gathered information and prepared accordingly. There was only one place where the information could have leaked. It wasn't from within the unit. Only two people knew they were coming here.
The company commander and the platoon leader.
Could they have been bribed by the criminal guild with Krona?
Doesn't seem likely.
So that left only one place.
Vanessa's Pumpkin Soup Inn.
When Kreis whispered to the barmaid, he had casually mentioned their mission to raid the Thieves' Guild.
The barmaid, did you do it on purpose?
Oh, you figured it out? You're smart, squad leader.
Not bad, indeed. Years of surviving in this harsh world had sharpened his instincts.
Yes, many people have been passing information to this guild without knowing it. The barmaid was probably a dedicated informant. A lively barmaid at an inn is perfect for gathering various bits of information. Oh, it's frightening! That seemingly innocent girl was an informant for thieves!
Scary? You're the one who seems scarier. You knew and fully exploited the situation, didn't you?
I wasn't completely sure. I confirmed it with this incident.
You should have said something earlier. It was a needless trick. Kreis, realizing his mistake, started making excuses.
Enough. Let it go, but next time it's better to tell me in advance.
It was probably something he did, considering the squad members' skills. Enkrid himself thought this way was more convenient. Otherwise, they would have had to chase and track down the remaining members, even after hitting the base. Thinking about it, Kreis indeed had his own aims. What could be gained by gathering and then destroying the Thieves' Guild's forces?
Squad leader, don't you need Krona?
Kreis asked suddenly, blinking his big eyes at Enkrid, who had shown leniency. Feigning innocence, blinking like that, meant he was up to something again. Kreis knew how to use his appearance to his advantage, and he was clever. But that didn't mean it worked on Enkrid.
Let's hear what trick you're planning.
Though the pretty eyes didn't work, Kreis's words struck a chord. The term krona, used in the context of imperial currency, meant he was asking if Enkrid needed money. Money was always needed. They had exhausted their reward money to buy a sword, making it difficult to acquire other equipment. What they looted now had put out the immediate fire, but money would always be needed in the future.
We should take what we have here.
Kreis said calmly. With that, he proposed a second job to Enkrid. Kreis found the most efficient way to gain benefits from the ongoing situation.
Even if it is called the Thieves' Guild.
Upon closer look, it's no different from a business enterprise. Collecting protection fees, eliminating petty theft, and only utilizing the best resources. Such a business wouldn't be too bad. More importantly, Kreis had a business plan based on the Thieves' Guild. This place is the border guard, known for its strict law enforcement. Normally, it wouldn't be easy for a criminal guild to thrive here. But not here. The Gilpin Guild had made it work. It's not clear what they did, but it wouldn't have been easy with ordinary means. Right now, how many heated leather pieces did they produce? There were also several coins and notes worth over 100,000 krona. Some promissory notes were also found, but they seemed difficult to utilize. If he organized his plans and the businesses here,
There's no way I can lose.
krona was at stake. Kreis demonstrated the wisdom befitting a sage, understanding and accepting the situation.
Become a thief.
Enkrid asked back. Kreis briefly looked at the squad leader. He had said his dream was to be a knight. He wanted to go higher. To get proper training and quality equipment, he would need krona. Knights traditionally earned money through warfare. They didn't earn the nickname experts in slaughter for nothing.
There's nothing wrong with thinking about it. The Gilpin group is finished now. And if they leave, How long do you think it will take for another thieves guild to take their place?
Kreis's mind was racing. Blood flowed to his brain, making it spin. Considering Gilpin's nature, this was a golden opportunity.
It will take at most a month.
It was true, and Enkrid reflexively nodded.
It's warm.
Rem exclaimed from the side, wearing a coat made of heated leather.
Of course, are you cold?
Ragna scolded Rem. After briefly diverting his gaze, Kreis's voice drew Enkrid back. It was calm yet contained a strange intensity.
In that case, Gilpin seems like a decent person. Let's leave him as he is and form a thieves guild that doesn't kill people or steal items.
It was a plausible suggestion, truly tempting. Maintaining honor as a knight, that was also something that required Krona. Enkrid knew the reality well. Of course, if he possessed knight-level martial prowess, Krona would naturally roll in. In fact, even among those with knight-level skills, there were some who would move if you paid them enough. Most importantly, Enkrid believed that the honor of a knight was about following one's heart. There was nothing objectionable about Kreis's proposal. Viewed positively, it was actually a good idea.
If it makes people's lives easier.
Then, there would be fewer crying children. Parents raising their children would have fewer worries. As in any city, there are always those who live difficult lives. It might provide some comfort to them. At first, he had just intended to gather firewood to survive the winter. But if this opportunity could help people, there was no reason not to do it.
Is it all right?
Yes, it's fine. I'll divide the profits appropriately and give them to the squad leader. Just make sure to handle the other squad members well.
He wondered why Kreis was so intent on convincing him. It was because of Rem and the others. If Kreis decided to take over the guild, they wouldn't just let it happen.
What benefit do you get out of this?
He suddenly became curious. Was it worth having a thieves' guild while paying tribute? How much actual profit did he expect?
Information.
Enkrid was newly impressed by Kreis's cleverness. Information is money. Even trivial information within the city could turn into quality krona within the squad. For example, just knowing the name and hobbies of the flower shop girl would have people lining up to buy that information. It could also be used in other ways.
You understand right away that's why I like you as a squad leader.
Kreis extended his fist. Enkrid also extended his fist and bumped it. Thus a promise was made and a deal was struck. Enkrid would gain krona and handle the squad members. Kreis would get the guild. When Enkrid returned to stand in front of the fireplace,
I'm fine with it, Kreis can have it.
said Jackson first. What a scary guy. He had incredibly sensitive ears. They seemed to have spoken at least 10 steps away.
Gilpin, take care of the corpses here, and sort out those among the survivors who are prone to murder, who have significantly harmed the weak, or who might cause problems in the future. I'll take them to prison.
Leaving things as they are didn't mean leaving them exactly as they were now.
It seems like we need to hand over a few guys.
And from now on, this friend is the guild leader. That means you can stay here. Oh, and if you quit here and start another guild, we'll meet again.
I don't have the guts for that.
Out of habit, Gilpin scratched his white sandy hair as he spoke.
But, Sir Soldier.
Then he continued.
What?
Well, I think it's best to disband. If we stay, we might all get killed.
All get killed? Why? Enkrid asked with his eyes. Gilpin hesitated and then roughly explained the situation so far. Most people probably didn't know, but the dead guild leader was a contractor who handled jobs for Aspen. Not a spy, but a contractor.
There's someone who comes periodically to check on the guild. If it weren't for that, we would have switched places long ago.
Even though Gilpin seemed gentle and cared for his people, he was still part of the Thieves' Guild. He wouldn't be in his current position if he were an ordinary person. The person who came to visit, that guy was the problem.
If they don't siege the dead guy, there will be chaos. We were already planning to sell the mansion at a low price and disappear completely.
How many are coming?
One person, but it's a frog.
Members of a race that instills heart phobia, a combat species with strength far superior to humans. Enkrid had once been kicked by a frog. It had landed him in the infirmary.
A frog is coming.
Yes.
What should be done about this? Why would a frog come to monitor a thieves' guild in a frontier town? There's a saying that frogs who are on the continent are recognized frogs. It means they're already proven experts to some extent. By the military grading system of Norilia, the minimum would be a special grade or higher.
What is this place exactly?
For the details, only the dead guy knows. One thing is certain, whenever that frog comes, they leave some krona as operational expenses.
Not collecting money, but leaving it. Seriously, what is this? Enkrid couldn't fathom the reason at all.
That's curious.
Kreis felt the same way. There was nothing more to say. So, what now?
We're taking over the guild.
Nothing changes. There's still time. The matters that come afterward can be dealt with then. Or they could disband and give up when the time comes. Thus, they decided to take over the guild entirely. Gilpin had no particular complaints. He thought it was a relief just to be alive. Enkrid believed that although these thieves agreed for now, they might cause problems later. Could such a group really remain obedient? Of course, from now on, it would be Kreis's skill in handling them. Since he decided to do it, it was now up to him.
I'll take this.
Jackson collected a few rings and jewelry, presumably for a woman. Rem grabbed a heated coat and some leather to use as a rug, and then began inspecting the contents of the safe. Ragnar looked over the swords gathered by the guild and dismissed them all as trash. After that, he lost interest in the valuables. Auden was the same.
They say focusing on wealth blinds you.
He only prayed. Instead, he fulfilled Enkrid's request.
Could you open the safe? Yes, brother.
It was the dead guild leader's safe. It had a sturdy lock with chains wrapped tightly around it. Auden stood in front of the lock and grasped it, with a crunching sound. From then on, it was like watching a strong man show. He broke the lock with his bare hands. It seemed almost unbelievable.
Wow, you're pretty strong, aren't you?
Rem exclaimed in amazement. With the lock broken, the chains were useless. Normally, it would take a long time with a hacksaw, but this was done instantly. This was the strength of a squad member who could open doors without knocking. Enkrid was also curious about what was inside the safe. He walked over briskly.
Are you gonna open it yourself?
Rem looked at Enkrid and spoke.
Shall I?
It was pure curiosity. As he approached the safe, Enkrid asked.
So when does this frog come?
Gilpin, who was standing next to him, answered.
He'll come at the start of the first season. He said he comes once at the beginning of the 4 seasons, and once in the 3rd season.
Once in spring and once in autumn. That meant there was still time. Enkrid nodded and stood in front of the safe. What could be inside? He was curious. He grabbed the handle of the safe with his fingertips and lifted it. The hinges, apparently not oiled, made a rusty sound as they moved. The safe opened. The heavy lid swung back and hit the body of the safe, making a dull noise that echoed faintly in Enkrid's ears. Thud, thud, thud. He couldn't see anything. He couldn't touch anything. But he felt something wrapping around his body. He felt isolated from the world. Suddenly, everyone around him vanished from his sight. He tried to blink, but his body wouldn't respond. He tried to open his mouth, but even that didn't work.
What's up? Found something good?
Suddenly, Rem's voice broke through. Enkrid snapped back to his normal state. He blinked and opened his mouth. There was no problem.
Did that seem a bit strange just now? The squad leader has always been a bit strange. I know that well.
No one else seemed to have noticed anything. Dismissing Rem's nonsense, Enkrid also thought it was just his imagination.
Let's see what's inside.
He shook his head slightly and looked into the box. Inside was a leather armor.
What's this?
Enkrid's mouth opened. The question was directed at Gilpin.
I don't know. All I know is that the dead guy cherished it.
He picked it up and examined it. It didn't seem like an ordinary item. When he pressed it with his finger, it felt resilient.
It looks like precious leather. Take it, squad leader. Better not get a hole in your belly.
It seems like a good item.
At Rem's suggestion, Kreis inspected it. He had an eye for valuable items. He decided to keep it. Good armor is several times more valuable to a warrior than a good weapon.
I'll take this.
There were no objections. After packing it, Kreis decided to handle the rest of the matters.
By now the snow should be all cleared, right?
Rem continued to speak up. Enkrid pondered the time and looked out the window. The snow had not yet melted. If they returned now, they might have to shovel snow all night. It wasn't something to worry about, so Enkrid muttered as he gathered his squad's opinions.
Our mission ends tomorrow morning.
By tomorrow morning, there surely wouldn't be any snow left to clear.
Good. It seems like there's still a lot to do here.
Rem agreed, settling in front of the fireplace. For now, Rem was as docile as could be. It made sense. Rem was savoring the word happiness with the warmth of the heated leather and the fireplace.
Indeed, there's still a lot to do.
Ragnar took a seat opposite the fireplace.
Yes, it seems there's still much to convey the words of the gods.
Auden added.
Then I'll return tomorrow morning.
Jackson opted for individual action. At times like this, there's no room for disagreement. They worked well together. Enkrid wished they were always this cooperative. It was a recurring thought during this task.
Squad leader.
Kreis called Enkrid and subtly gave him a thumbs up. It was high praise.
Reporting the return of all squad members. We have located and eliminated the Thieves Guild.
Upon Enkrid's words, the company commander, wrapped in a thick coat, glanced up. It was the commander's private training ground. Despite lighting fires on 2 poles, it was still a cold day. The company commander, standing on the frozen ground like stone, asked again due to the cold weather.
Eliminated.
This woman, did she know something and was asking for confirmation? Enkrid calmly replied.
Yes, eliminated. We sent those destined for prison and executed the remaining resistors.
I see.
The company commander spoke while rotating his shoulders, as if loosening up. Did he really know something? Still, it wasn't like Enkrid could just calmly say,
Kreis took over the guild. The treasures from the base were brought to the unit. Yes.
except for a few heated leathers and some jewelry, everything else was returned to the unit. That was only natural. Any additional gains from operations were supposed to be handed over to the unit. It's customary to turn a blind eye to taking a small amount.
You did well.
Fortunately, the company commander didn't press further. Instead, she just made a suggestion, looking at Enkrid's blue eyes with his jewel-like green eyes.
A match?
What do you mean, Commander?
Don't you want to test the fairy sword?
Do you mean a sparring match?
I heard you never refuse.
The fairy sword is light, but sharp. That's its reputation. Enkrid had faced the fairy sword a few times. Encountering fairies wasn't rare during his mercenary days, but back then his skills were poor. Their sensitivity made Valen's mercenary sword technique ineffective, so it was embarrassing to even say he properly faced them.
Yes.
A sparring match. It seemed like a valuable experience. Lately, he had been thinking,
The more I fight, the more I gain.
Enkrid knew that his talent was mediocre. The more experience, the better. All of it shone when he faced another today. Of course, even without such a reason, he wouldn't refuse. That was just the kind of person Enkrid was.
All right.
Good, I like your spirit. Come at me.
The fairy company commander drew her sword. Nadil, the sword of the fairies. It was a real sword duel. Enkrid drew his own sword. The long sword and the Nidil clashed once. Simultaneously, they both stepped back 2 paces. Enkrid was cautious. He remembered a time when a mere gesture from the fairy company commander had knocked him down. It was back in the infirmary. How much has he changed since then? He didn't know. He was about to find out now. The world spun around. With a thud, he hit the ground on his back, knocking the wind out of him.
If you slam him a bit harder, your ribs and organs will get damaged.
As Enkrid grimaced through the pain, the musical voice of the company commander resounded from above him.
Stop, one more time.
If he could, Enkrid wanted nothing more than to repeat the process, even if it meant being beheaded by Nidil. He knew he couldn't win. Rem had once glanced at the fairy company commander and said,
That woman is a complete monster.
Then there was Ragna's assessment,
She's the best among the company commanders.
and Auden's addition.
Her body is well built.
Knowing he couldn't win didn't change anything, so Enkrid gripped his sword with both hands.
Let's go.
The fairy company commander was the same as always. Her voice was flat and emotionless. Nidil curved inward. The sword Nidil made by the fairies bent as if to slice and then at some point became a point to thrust. Earlier, Enkrid had tried to avoid the thrust and allowed the distance. This time he stepped back and swung his long sword upward. He definitely had the advantage in strength. If he could strike Nadil upward from below, it would create an opening. He envisioned the course of the fight in his mind. This natural combat prediction came from countless real battles, fights where his life was on the line. He predicted the opponent's reactions and prepared accordingly. Those who were inherently talented or had honed their skills in real combat could do this naturally, but for Enkrid it was a skill gained only after losing his life countless times. Suck. Just before the company commander's Nidil clashed with Enkrid's longsword, Nidil bent softly. It really seemed like a leaf living up to its nickname, the leaf sword. The blade bent and wavered. It was a trick of the company commander's wrist. She twisted and shook it. Despite seeing the blade bend, Enkrid put more strength into his sword, determined to hit it. In the end, his upward swing missed the bending blade. Enkrid slashed at empty air. It was swordsmanship that could only be described as a trick. The fairy then closed the distance again. She moved right into his chest. Enkrid, who had prepared, raised his knee. The company commander did not evade. Instead, she overlapped her hands and pressed down on the knee. Before Enkrid could apply proper force, the pressure disrupted his balance, knowing yet still falling for it. That was what Enkrid thought. He had anticipated such a close-range fight, yet still. As he tried to headbutt impulsively, the company commander dodged, receiving Enkrid's forehead with his shoulder. The following sequence was similar to before. Only the strike technique was different. The company commander, with both hands clasped together, blocked his knee and struck Enkrid near the heart. For a moment he lost his breath again, and strength drained from his limbs. If this had been a fight to the death, he might have bit his tongue in a desperate struggle, but it was a sparring match. At this point, he had already lost.
Gah, hoo.
Enkrid stepped back a few steps, then knelt on the ground, catching his breath. When he finally looked up, he saw the company commander's green eyes.
More.
She asked.
Who?
Enkrid's heart ached painfully, but he smiled. He was genuinely happy that she didn't stop just because she had won, and so he kept charging again and again, getting hit, falling down, and lying sprawled out.
Did you get beaten up for not shoveling the snow? Is that what happened?
Back at the quarters, Rem, wrapped in a heated leather, reacted first.
What? Why do you look like that? Who did this?
Despite his words, he seemed ready to rush out, but his hands clutched the heated leather more tightly. Yeah, that must be pretty warm. Enkrid knew it too. Today was particularly cold.
What happened?
Ragna asked. For some reason, even Jackson, who was at the quarters today, watched Enkrid closely. It was as if he was asking with his eyes. Odin muttered quietly.
Why do you always get beaten up, brother?
The way he says it makes me sound really fragile.
Like a childish kid who gets hit at the slightest provocation. Thinking this, Enkrid answered.
I was sparring.
With whom?
The company commander.
Our company commander?
Enkrid nodded.
Why'd you do that? If you want to get beaten up, I could do it for you.
That guy's words were always so irritating. Enkrid didn't bother to respond. He had just washed up with superhuman effort. Fortunately, their barracks had a bath that provided hot water with just a bit of krona. Without it, he might have given up on washing altogether. His entire body ached. He didn't even have the strength to lift a finger, but that was okay. He just needed to rest. A couple of days of good rest should be enough. With no duties or training, he had plenty of time to rest.
Considering your efforts for the city's security, you are granted a 4-day leave. There will be no bonus.
The company commander had said this after ending their sparring session as the sun was setting. No duties, she had said. Although there was no bonus, Enkrid considered the sparring itself as a reward. Moreover, there were the spoils obtained from the Thieves' Guild.
It must have been over 10 times.
That was the number of times he had been sprawled out on the frozen ground. His body suffered, but he had learned something.
What I lack now.
The company commander spoke not with words, but with her sword and fists. Mastering swordsmanship, focus point, the heart of the beast, and the sense of the blade was fundamental. Those were the basics. However, Enkrid realized there was something he needed to fill within himself.
You're dull.
The company commander's final words hit like a dagger, but it didn't hurt much. Teachers he had before were far harsher.
Is this really something you need to learn? Just give up and go back to your hometown to farm. I can't teach someone who's going to die as a third-rate swordsman.
The better the person, the harsher their words. Though the company commander called Enkrid dull, Enkrid still obtained what he wanted from that dullness.
A lack of technique.
Specifically, a lack of body-handling technique. The ferry company commander repeatedly threw him down in the same way. She taught with her body, and Enkrid learned with his. He never missed an opportunity to learn, like a hawk hunting its prey.
What I need.
Wrestling, grappling, hand-to-hand combat, and ground fighting techniques. Just because one swings a sword doesn't mean one fights only with the sword. Using hands, feet, and the body was also part of it. Enkrid had employed such tactics before.
But it's clear I never learned properly.
The company commander's skills were outstanding, especially when she rushed in, throwing him to the ground and breaking his balance, then locking his knee. It was impossible to counter. What if he drew a dagger and struck down? No, the company commander would dislocate and break his knee joint before he could draw and stab.
Not easy.
The point was the difference in technique. There was also a difference in skill level, but what they had learned and possessed was different from the start.
It was fun, though.
His whole body ached, and he felt as if he was falling apart, but he had learned something. Moreover, that learning had opened a new path for him, which made Enkrid happy. As he moved to lie down on his bed, he saw a panther peek its head out, looking at him with blue eyes.
I said I'd give you a name.
It was troublesome not to have a proper name to call him by. As he lay down on the bed, the panther snuggled into his chest. He felt a warm sensation. Somehow the warmth seemed to alleviate his aching body a little.
Should I name you Stove since you're warm?
Is that what you call a name?
Rem chimed in from the side. This guy always had to butt in.
Is it weird?
Is that even a question?
From the other side of the bed, Ragnar answered. He was lying down, too lazy to get up, but still had the energy to talk.
Brother, do you dislike the panther?
Even Odin joined in.
Do you dislike it?
Enkrid asked the panther, which responded by swatting Enkrid's cheek with its paw.
Seems like he really dislikes it.
Muttering, Enkrid held the panther in his arms, lost in thought. What should he name it? He hadn't expected to be troubled over something like this. Blackie? No, that sounds like a dog's name. Its eyes are blue like a lake. So should I call it Blue Eyes? That seemed a bit better. The panther, nestled in his chest, lightly tapped him with its paw, as if reading his thoughts and rejecting all his suggestions. You don't like Blue Eyes either. Then what should I call you? Should I call you Black Panther? That seems convenient enough. Press. The panther pressed its paw against his chest, rubbing insistently, showing its strong dislike.
Can you read my mind or something?
I had spent the night with the comrades of those I had killed during an external operation. In such a situation, it was odd that Rem, who snored loudly, and Ragnar, who slept like the dead, could sleep so soundly. Some level of tension was necessary. Because of this, I couldn't sleep deeply at the thieves' headquarters. I only managed a light sleep, barely closing my eyes for a moment. After returning, I reported immediately, and then went straight into sparring. Sparring that involved rolling on the frozen ground several times, exhausting my body. Thanks to that, my body felt lethargic. After washing with hot water and wrapping myself in heated leather and a blanket, warmth seeped into my body. The warmth from the panther also helped. The rhythmic pressing of its paws lulled me to sleep. Enkrid was in a half-asleep state.
What's your name?
Half in a dream and half in reality, he asked. In that drowsy state, Enkrid had a dream. In the dream, a beautiful woman with silver blonde hair and blue eyes appeared. Her wide-open eyes were large and clear, and her straight, prominent nose seemed to reflect her personality. She seemed like a proud beauty, straight and unyielding. In the middle of a flower meadow filled with white, red, yellow, and blue blossoms, she stood alone among the flowers like a shining star, a star that gave light to all the flowers.
You're very beautiful.
Enkrid spoke. His voice carried across the meadow to her. It was something he could understand because it was a dream. And then,
My name is Esther.
she said. Her voice also crossed distance and space to reach Enkrid. The meadow, and she disappeared again. In his half-asleep state, Enkrid mumbled.
Esther, let's call you Esther.
Are you dreaming?
Rem responded from beside him, but Enkrid, already asleep, did not answer. Seeing the sleeping squad leader, Rem tilted his head. No matter how tired he wasn't the kind of person to fall asleep so completely.
He must be really exhausted.
Rem muttered. It seemed the company commander had really pushed the squad leader to his limits. He didn't like it much. The fairy woman who was their company commander was a mysterious type whose intentions were never clear. Why was she treating their squad leader so harshly without anyone's permission? As if reacting to the word Esther, the panther in the squad leader's arms let out a contented purr.
Yeah, let's call you Esther.
Rem joked and closed his eyes as well. The current warmth was satisfying. He hated the cold. Absolutely detested it. Did they say there were no duties for 3 days? Rem had no intention of leaving his heated leather except to eat and relieve himself. The lake panther, Esther, caught a familiar scent from the man named Enkrid. It was a scent related to spells, mysteries, and secrets. In truth, if investigated deeply, it was closer to a curse.
It only lingered on the surface.
The mystery, called a curse, had left its trace around Enkrid without exerting any power. From her experience, it seemed like a spell trap had been triggered. It activated, but it didn't affect him. She had an idea why the curse only lingered without taking hold. Of course, it was just a guess. In her current form, she couldn't prove anything. She wanted to know more, to dig deeper, but now was not the time. To be precise, it wasn't something to be pursued. Savoring the scent of the spell, she absorbed the energy lingering around Enkrid, which had not affected him but remained on the surface. The malevolent intent and will that could be called a curse had already dissipated, leaving only pure energy and mana. Esther savored it. It was a delightful scent. It had been a long time since she had tasted a part of the spell world. During this, she projected herself into the man's dream, who was about to name her without her consent.
My name is Esther.
She conveyed her name properly. She couldn't let it slide. In the world of spells, names held special significance, especially since her current state was not good. Receiving a new name in her current form would deepen the curse. So, she had to reveal her true name. That's why she appeared in the man's dream, despite the effort it took. Perhaps thanks to the mana remaining on Enkrid and projecting her image into his dream. For a brief moment, Esther regained her original form, naked, in the arms of the man she had chosen. The man held her tightly. Esther's face turned bright red since she had never allowed anyone so close before, but no one saw it. The man's firm chest muscles were right in front of her face. Esther let out a thin breath, staying completely still. She wasn't in a position to cause a commotion. Her original form had returned only for a very brief moment. The man's eyelids slowly lifted. His eyes were still sleepy, not fully focused. The moment she met his gaze, Esther was so startled she forgot to breathe.
Huh?
The man looked at her with a dazed expression, closed his eyes gently, then opened them again. His eyes were still sleepy in that moment to transform back into her panther form. It was the mystery of magic. The man who had opened his eyes again closed them and fell back asleep.
Esther, Esther.
The man mumbled her name in his sleep. He probably won't remember, right? She was relieved to have turned back into a panther. Although technically, it wasn't the first time she had seen this man. Being naked in his arms was something she didn't want to imagine. She then regretted it. Thank goodness for the curse, she thought. It wasn't something she wanted to think about even by accident. But this was her first time being held in a man's arms like this. The panther considered pushing the man away but stayed still. The scent of mana lingering on the man's body enticed her. She convinced herself it was because of the mana and snuggled deeper into his chest. Just as Enkrid felt the warmth of the panther also felt Enkrid's warmth. She had regained enough strength to briefly find her true form. Now, even as a panther, she could move around a bit more. It would still take some time to fully regain her form.
Soon.
It was just a matter of time. Staying close to this man named Enkrid made it possible. Otherwise, she wouldn't have sought him out in the first place.
I do like his face.
From her perspective, Enkrid was a rare, handsome man. Of course, Esther didn't think that was the important part. Enkrid had a dream. There was a flower field and a woman.
I'm going to rely on you for a while, just so you know.
She had an aura of mysterious charm. Even though Enkrid rarely took a second look at women, she seemed hard to forget. The dream was chaotic. First a flower field, then a black river, then a ferryman appeared, then the woman, and suddenly a panther.
Why are you here?
He asked inwardly, and the panther shook its head and then turned away as if pouting. Finding it adorable, Enkrid couldn't resist and scratched the top of its head with his fingers. He had heard that the lake panther was a fierce beast, but at moments like this it was just like a cat. It purred in satisfaction, a sound that Enkrid found comforting. Then he briefly opened his eyes, finding it hard to distinguish between dream and reality. The woman he saw in the flower field and the black river was in his arms, and she was naked. He blinked, and the woman disappeared, replaced by the top of the panther's head. It must have been a dream.
For a dream.
The lingering weight in his arms, The scent and warmth that couldn't have come from a small panther left a strange impression.
This dream feels too real.
Then sleep overtook him again, and Enkrid didn't resist the pull. When he woke up in the morning, the panther, which never left his side until he awoke, was nowhere to be seen.
Panther Esther.
He recalled the name he had given in his half-asleep state. Then he saw the lake panther standing stiffly in one corner. It was hiding so well in the shadows of the quarters that it was hard to spot unless you looked closely, with eyes as blue as a lake and fur as black as ebony. It walked across the floor with delicate steps and then sat gracefully in one spot. It settled on a leather mat, made for it to rest on, of course, a heated leather mat.
From nothing to luxury overnight.
The sight of even a panther grooming its claws on a heated mat was remarkable. There was jerky laid out, probably brought by Big Eyes or Rem. The panther lazily cut the jerky with its claws and began to chew it. But why did he feel so empty? Because the small animal that warmed his arms in the morning was gone. Or was the dream too vivid? He felt he could draw the naked woman from the dream with precise detail. Of course, he had no talent for drawing, so it would be a mess. But the memory was that clear.
She was beautiful indeed.
Her beauty was exceptional, almost comparable to the ferry company commander, who boasted an inhuman beauty.
What are you thinking so hard about?
I had a dream and it stuck with me too vividly.
Esther looked at Enkrid. The panther's gaze was peculiar. When he mentioned his name in the dream, the impression might have been stronger than he thought. For someone with weak willpower, just that could have been mentally impactful. So, what should he do? Should he find a way to use the panther's body to do something about it? The panther became serious.
What kind of dream was it?
Rem asked, rolling up in the leather mat.
Are you a caterpillar?
That's right. I'm a caterpillar, a big-mouth caterpillar, so feed me breakfast. Otherwise, this weak caterpillar will starve to death.
This guy was definitely half mad. Enkrid ignored Rem's words. He was the kind of guy you could do that to.
So what kind of dream was it?
Rem asked again. Enkrid scratched his chin and replied.
It was a strange dream.
Strange?
Rem tilted his head. Since only his head was sticking out, he expressed everything through his face and head. That in itself was a talent.
I saw a naked woman.
Gurk, cough, cough.
Enkrid's eyes turned to the panther. The panther was coughing repeatedly, as if a piece of jerky had gotten stuck in its throat.
Esther.
The panther ignored the call, its head still buried in the floor. It was a panther that exuded mystery from the moment they first met. A beast among beasts, the owner of the green pearl, a lake-eyed panther, the lake panther. Such a fierce beast was now coughing and drooling on the floor. It seemed like it might die from choking.
I've never seen a panther die from choking on jerky, so was she pretty?
She was extremely pretty, but he didn't answer. What was the point? It was just a dream, after all.
Aren't you moving too slowly because it's winter, Rem?
Enkrid said, getting up. Once he stood, he realized there wasn't a part of his body that didn't ache. Just moving was painful, but staying still at times like this only made things worse. He knew that from experience. That didn't mean he needed to train. In the past, he might have pushed himself harder out of impatience, but he knew that doing so would only damage his body further. Since learning that, he had set boundaries. He wasn't as impatient as he used to be.
Rest is also part of training.
Countless swordsmanship instructors had said that. If you stretch your body adequately today, tomorrow will be a bit more comfortable. The monk exercises he learned from Audin should suffice.
So was she pretty or not?
What does it matter? It was just a dream.
He gave a vague answer and went outside. It was cold again today. His whole body ached, but he started to stretch. He didn't think much. In fact, after sparring and rolling around, things became clearer. It was always a question.
What should I do next?
For those with talent, the so-called geniuses, they say the path becomes clear even if they don't seek it. Finding what they need at the moment and identifying what they lack is also a talent. So, what about those without talent? They try this and that consumes time. They start at a different line. That's why a great teacher is necessary. A teacher who can point out what one lacks is always a treasure. This time, the ferry company commander played that role partially. The remaining gaps now needed to be filled by someone else.
Audin.
In the morning, Audin always comes out. Cold? He doesn't care about such things, so much so that people around call him the praying bear. It's not just his size that earns him that nickname.
Yes, brother, it's a good day, isn't it?
A sharp cold wind whistled between them. The border guard is in the northernmost part of the Penhanel continent. It's a particularly cold region within the Penhanel continent. Thanks to the overcast sky, the surroundings looked mottled even though it was morning. But Auden was always like this. If the sun rises, he greets it. If it rains, he accepts it. Of course, he doesn't say good morning on snowy days.
It is.
Enkrid replied. What does the weather matter? Actually, it was a good day. Any day where you learn something new is a good day.
Teach me wrestling.
Enkrid was always straightforward. He did things as he always did. His goals and will were clear. Because he always treated his squad members like this, the current relationships were formed. Auden tilted his head. To him, this guy was a truly unique person. Seeing his skills improve in just a few days, he wondered what kind of luck he had to become like that. Enkrid, the squad leader, was like a burning flame to Auden. A flame that doesn't realize it's burning itself and scorches its surroundings. Because of this, the flame illuminates and warms the area around it. When he was trying to turn his back on the world and had almost given up, that's when he first encountered this human in the squad.
What are you doing right now?
It was their first meeting. Enkrid was swinging a club in front of the barracks. Not just any club, but something made by tying together 3 water-soaked wooden sticks.
Strength training.
Would swinging something heavy really build strength that easily? It might, but it wasn't an efficient method. It would be fortunate if his body didn't get damaged from it. Auden thought he would quit after a few days, but Enkrid didn't. Each day was the same. Whether he was on the battlefield, on duty, in the rain, or in the snow, he would even carve out time from his sleep to swing his sword. Auden recalled how he was back then, desolate. He could sum up his former self with those 2 words. Radiating gloom, he had asked,
Your skills are terrible. Why do you keep doing it every day?
I'll get better if I keep at it.
He didn't show any sign of being upset. He answered calmly and continued his training. Seeing that, Auden felt like he had been struck by lightning.
How can he be like that?
What drives him? What kind of belief does he have? There was no scent of faith. Effort is said to be a talent too, but if you weren't born with anything, even effort can't be sustained. Enkrid was that kind of person, a person betrayed by his daily efforts. Yet despite being betrayed every day, he kept moving forward.
What are you?
Since then, Auden consistently observed the squad leader. The more he watched the squad leader, the more his own reasons for despair seemed insignificant.
Faith is not something practiced for a reward.
That day, Auden started praying again.
Brother, at this rate, you'll ruin all your joints.
After that, he started to oversee the squad leader's training bit by bit. Auden could read the human body. He had a talent for seeing people's potential almost as much as Frog did. If Frog was called a talent identifier, Auden, through acquired effort and talent, became a body reader who could assess the extent of physical training. From his perspective, Enkrid had to work twice as hard as others just to build his body. His natural build was like that. Even the quality of his muscles wasn't very good. Does that mean he should give up? No, the squad leader he knew wasn't that kind of person.
You need to start by building your body. Are you okay with that?
Auden asked, despite the biting cold wind. After observing the squad leader and praying again, Auden always thought it was a good morning. Except when it snowed, of course.
Whenever you're ready.
It will be painful.
That's okay.
Enkrid thought it would be better than dying.
It will hurt.
No problem.
It would hurt less than being stabbed to death countless times by a sword.
What I'm going to teach you now is not the monk's exercises. It's a technique I developed myself. It's called the isolation technique.
The name sounded ominous, but he also thought it sounded promising. If he was going to learn something, he might as well learn it properly. It was the words of the best martial artist Enkrid had ever met, whether among his squad members or otherwise.
The isolation technique.
The 4th technique after the heart of the beast, blade sense, and focus point.
It's training that you will understand with your mind and perform with your body, brother.
Got it.
Then let's begin.
Auden's tone was calm. Enkrid nodded as if it were a matter of course, and then a groan, rather than a scream, began to emanate from one side of the training ground.
This is just the beginning, brother.
Enkrid began to wonder if the deity Auden prayed to every day was a demon. The exercises he had done before were literally just warm-ups. Auden called them the basics at every opportunity.
We'll build strength in the muscles by lifting weights based on flexibility. Let's begin.
Auden massaged various parts of Enkrid's body and then put him in a strange position. It was a position that felt like it would tear his muscles apart. Why, while lying down, did pressing his heels against his buttocks make the muscles in the front of his thighs feel like they were going to tear? Auden held Enkrid's legs down himself. Enkrid felt as if Auden's hands were iron shackles. Such was the strength. With his limited understanding of the body, Enkrid had to learn the movement of his muscles through his body.
It will be easier if you think of it as dying a couple of times.
He was already thinking that. It was indeed a series of terrible pains, so much so that he wondered if it would be better to just die. A strange groan started to come from Enkrid's mouth.
It's okay. I know the limits of the squad leader.
Why do you know my limits?
In truth, Auden seemed like a madman. Enkrid couldn't help but think that. Yet he secretly enjoyed it, because he expected to gain something from this suffering. Enkrid groaned and suffered, but he smiled.
Judging by your expression, you seem to have some leeway.
No, he didn't have any leeway. The demonic priest Auden dismantled, broke, and tore apart Enkrid's body countless times that day. At the end of the season, on a winter day, after 3 days of developing flexibility,
Lift it.
lifting heavy stones and performing restricted movements followed.
Inhale, exhale. Control your breathing. Fill your abdomen with air. Do it with abdominal pressure, brother.
The isolation technique wasn't a skill used for combat. It was a technique for remodeling one's body. For half a month, Enkrid endured it, feeling like he was passing bloody stools. Then it became somewhat bearable. After another half a month passed,
Is it manageable?
it wasn't as difficult as before. There was no comparable pain. It had been tough at first, but it was worth it. So another half a month passed, making it a total of 1 month, and his body began to change. The basics of the isolation technique lay in repetition. It involved enhancing one's physical abilities by repeatedly performing movements while holding heavy weights. This training was not just about increasing muscle strength.
Shall we begin?
A month had passed, and the corner of the training ground was still cold. Enkrid suggested a sparring match. Auden nodded with a smile.
Do you prefer your arms or your legs, brother?
It was a signal that he intended to twist one of them.
Your tongue is too long, Auden.
Both were barehanded. They hadn't spent the entire month just learning the isolation technique. They stared at each other. To meet Auden's eyes, Enkrid had to tilt his head slightly. The difference in their physiques was evident. Despite that, Auden moved first. As he kicked off the ground and lowered his body, he charged forward so quickly that it left an afterimage. Not fitting his nickname, the Praying Bear. In the past, the best Enkrid could do was raise his knee in response. But now it was different. He similarly lowered his stance, clenched his fist, and aimed his thumb forward as if to pierce. If Auden charged, he could burst his eyeball. Then Auden stopped his charge and leapt to the side. With quick steps, his large frame changed positions as swiftly as Esther. He was like a nimble panther, a combination of agility and reflexes not fitting his size. If Enkrid let him get behind, the fight would be over, so he turned his body repeatedly. At some point, Auden extended his fist. They were now within arm's reach. When the distance closed was unknown. It was a state of focus point. Enkrid judged and acted in a split second. He aimed to block the impact point with his forehead before the punch landed. One of the wrestling techniques to take a hit without pain. As Auden extended his fist, he opened his palm and grabbed Enkrid's hair. Then he pulled the hair downwards, pressing his left elbow onto Enkrid's back with his weight. For a moment, Enkrid withstood Auden's strength and weight. He didn't just endure, he attempted to throw Auden over his back. But Auden didn't comply. He shifted his weight and pulled Enkrid's hair forward. The perfectly timed pull disrupted Enkrid's balance. He couldn't move his body as he intended. He lost his balance. There was no way out now. Enkrid shielded his face with his hands as Auden pinned him down.
Instead of your arms or legs, you've given up your body, squad leader, brother.
Auden laughed heartily. It was a boisterous laugh.
If this were a battlefield, I would have had a helmet.
He was referring to the hair grab. Speaking while pinned, Auden responded with a laugh.
Then I would have used other means.
It was true. Enkrid wasn't complaining, he was curious about the other means.
If there had been a helmet, I would have grabbed your nape with my palm, or pressed down on the back of your head in one swift motion instead.
I see.
Enkrid was still pinned. The weight of the praying bear felt like it could crush his insides at any moment, but what Enkrid had just learned was more important. As Enkrid focused, Auden got up and dusted himself off. A month had passed, and while some might have gone mad from the monotonous routine, for Enkrid, it became a calm daily practice. In the mornings, he practiced the isolation technique. After lunch, he learned wrestling. He trained with the sword again until evening. After dinner, he reviewed everything he had learned: the heart of the beast, the sense of the blade, the focus point. All of them had room for improvement. If there was room for progress, why stop? Yet, the pace of learning was slow. Even with the support of the focus point, the sense of the blade, and the heart of the beast, it was slow, so Enkrid crawled. He was a slow snail and a turtle that had come ashore.
You improve very slowly.
Auden, having stood up, adjusted his clothes as he spoke. The cold had not yet subsided, and white steam rose from his shoulders. It was the same for Enkrid's shoulders. Both the isolation technique and wrestling were activities that made them sweat profusely. Enkrid repeatedly reflected on Auden's teachings. They were worth it.
The way to gauge skill.
The body contained all the information. For example, a right-handed swordsman often had more developed muscles in the right arm. It was the insight to read an opponent's experience and level of training by looking at their physique and muscle development. After starting training with the isolation technique, he realized something new. What he learned afterward was valuable too. After establishing the basics of his body with the isolation technique, he learned wrestling. Auden divided wrestling into 3 main techniques: striking, joint locks, and throws. He said that if the opponent was smaller in physique, simply throwing and slamming them would make the fight easier.
What if I am the smaller one?
Enkrid was a good listener, but had just as many questions. He never let anything pass easily when it came to learning. Auden often thought this was exactly what made a good squad leader.
If you are smaller, there's a way to fight accordingly. Those skilled in joint locks, striking, and grappling use the opponent's strength against them. Counters are a type of this technique.
What the ferry company commander had done was likely one of these techniques. The move that toppled him with a single gesture came to mind. Auden had even demonstrated such methods. Auden was kind. While he was like a demon during the isolation technique training, he was rather gentle when teaching wrestling.
If you apply more force here, the arm will break, and the joint will be damaged. Without divine healing, it won't recover, and you'll be left with a crippled arm.
Even the slightest mistake could leave Enkrid's body disassembled. Naturally, wrestling became a gentler lesson.
Strength and speed are essential, of course. You must also learn to identify vital points, how to bring down an opponent, how to break bones, and how to destroy joints. None of this can be learned half-heartedly. So you must repeat what you've already learned rather than seeking new lessons. Yet, do you still wish to learn something new?
He occasionally scolded him, and rightfully so. Enkrid preferred to learn as much as possible and internalize it rather than mastering a single technique to perfection.
This is right.
Enkrid had today's repetitions. He couldn't expect to master techniques with just what he was learning now. To Auden, it seemed like he was greedy and that his body couldn't keep up, but to Enkrid, this was the right path. His reflections on what he had learned were interrupted by Auden's voice.
Why do you think your hair was grabbed in that situation earlier?
Distance.
Enkrid replied plainly. It wasn't because he didn't know.
That's right, distance. I've said it countless times, yet you, squad leader brother, are truly slow and dull.
Enkrid remained unchanged. Such words didn't hurt him. He didn't have time for that. He was busy reviewing what he had learned today. There were dozens of types of joint locks alone. Just memorizing them and roughly integrating them into his body was already a challenge. On top of that, he had to learn throws and striking techniques and internalize the basic principles.
I've told you many times, physical strength is essential. Reading the distance is the same as in swordsmanship. Lastly, without agility, nothing else matters.
Auden was a good teacher. not because of his excellent teaching methods.
He doesn't know how to give up.
Despite the slow and sluggish progress, he taught with unwavering dedication. For Enkrid, such a teacher was the perfect fit. Stubborn teaching methods, even if they left only a small impression on the body and mind, would eventually lead to mastery. Enkrid too learned and practiced with determination, leaving the full mastery and proficiency for later.
Strength, distance, physical ability.
Enkrid repeated Audin's words to himself. Whether it was with a sword, spear, blunt weapon, or wrestling, strength and speed were essential. Although he had become quite familiar with measuring distance, Audin was still more skilled than Enkrid. That's why he lost.
Did you roll on the ground again today?
After finishing wrestling and returning, Rem was waiting for him.
Are you going to rest today?
It was the same question every time.
No.
This time it was the sword. While he sometimes used a wooden sword, he now felt more comfortable with a real sword. The long sword, familiar in his hand, targeted Rem's entire body. He didn't face only Rem every day. Some days it was Ragna.
Watching you makes me want to have a go, squad leader.
On other days it was Jackson.
I have some spare time. Grab your sword and come out.
None of them ever refused Enkrid's request. They all had similar thoughts, though. For instance, Rem thought,
What kind of talent is this? Does he need real combat experience?
on the battlefield it seemed his skills improved daily, but returning to the city, it felt like he was back to square one. Of course, he was better than before. There was no dramatic growth. At least that's how Rem saw it. The improvement he had was thanks to the heart of the beast, the focus point, the sense of the blade, and the isolation technique. The isolation technique was changing the quality of his muscles. Of course, dramatic changes couldn't happen in just a month. He progressed slowly, half a step at a time, like a slow snail crawling forward. Ragna had similar thoughts.
The basics are solid, but why is the application so slow to improve?
Did his talent peak? Why has he become a fool again? It's impossible to know. Yet Ragna showed enthusiasm. Enkrid was someone who naturally inspired motivation in others. Every day, regardless of his duties or other circumstances, he relentlessly repeated the same rigorous training. If he had morning duty, he would still lift rocks and assume strange postures late into the evening. The same applied to wrestling and swordsmanship. If he had duties during those times, he would start training after his shift. He would cut into his sleeping and eating time. During group infantry training, Rem, Ragna, Jackson, Audin, and Kreis would often slack off or just go through the motions, but Enkrid put his all into the training. After returning to the barracks, he would head out to the training grounds and repeat his exercises. He was consistently dedicated to a frightening degree. Because of this, Ragna felt motivated watching the squad leader. Jackson felt the same.
The senses.
His hearing was almost like having eyes in the back of his head. Yet the sensitivity of his senses didn't seem to improve further.
Why?
Was it his fault as the teacher? Or was it Enkrid, the learner? Who was the problem?
It's the learner's fault.
With his experience of teaching many times before, he knew. It was intriguing, to say the least, how slowly and gradually his skills improved.
And yet he never gives up. It's unique.
Jackson almost smiled but returned to his usual expressionless face.
Why does it matter if he's the squad leader?
Despite thinking this way, he always gave his best. They had established a rotating teaching schedule, and among them, Jackson was the most diligent. Esther watched the man she had chosen. In the blue eyes of the Black Panther, his image was captured. How could he be like that? She too had once lived consumed by the world of magic. There was a time when she immersed herself in the world of magic all day, needing nothing else. She neither desired food nor sleep nor anything else.
And that's how I ended up like this.
Esther reminisced about the past, then focused her eyes back on Enkrid.
He's different from me.
His routine was simple and repetitive. Eating, sleeping, and even resting seemed to be part of his regimen. He was someone who truly knew how to rest with dedication. Watching him made her think,
if there's anything I can do to help.
She wanted to help. She was that kind of person. Enkrid, however, had no time to look around him. He was literally too busy engraving various things into his body. He was always a training fanatic, but recently it has intensified, thanks to the isolation technique.
The quality of my muscles is changing.
He almost wanted to strip off his clothes and look at himself in the mirror. Who would feel this the most? Enkrid himself. When movements that were once difficult became smooth, it wasn't just pleasing. It was exhilarating to the point of madness, from thrusting to the basics of the heavy sword style. With his transformed body, everything felt different, smoother and more fluid. He had even become quite proficient with the flowing techniques of the fluid sword style. As the swords clashed, he deflected his opponent's weapon. He had just deflected Rem's axe to the side.
That's an improvement.
It was a deflection that Rem acknowledged. It wasn't perfect, but
It's better than before.
even Enkrid himself could feel the improvement in the completion of his techniques. At the core of all this was the bodybuilding technique. In other words, the isolation technique.
Do you regret not learning it earlier?
Auden had asked him once, wondering if he felt it was too late to start building his body.
No.
Enkrid shook his head. He had no regrets about the days that had passed. If he had such regrets, he would have been trapped in today. What he learned in the past was important at that time. So being dedicated to the present, that was the right approach. He had a dream of the ferryman just once during the month.
You're living no different from being trapped in today.
The ferryman, exuding boredom and resting his chin on his hand, had said before disappearing. The one who had once mocked him so harshly was nowhere to be seen. The ferryman was right. Enkrid had spent a month no different from a repetition of today. The only changes were the duty hours and the weather.
If you had learned it earlier, your body wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Auden had said. Enkrid didn't pay much mind to it. What mattered was today, the present. Before he knew it, the end of the 4 seasons, the middle of winter, the harshest of them all, had arrived.
Come see me for a moment.
One day, amid these routine days, the ferry company commander came to see Enkrid. When he went outside the barracks, the company commander, standing with her back to the cold, looked at him with green eyes and said,
It's a mission.
The border guard reserve troops were drafted as needed. Fighting on the battlefield wasn't their only duty.
Yes.
It's to escort the successor of the Merchant Guild. Select one person from your squad to accompany you.
The company commander conveyed the order. It was a directive from the higher-ups. Enkrid had to comply. Assignments and missions, he wasn't particularly fond of them. But now, he was interested in building his merit, equipping himself with skills and accumulating merit. It was the path to knighthood.